Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.
Well, I found out the gig was open. I was fairly good friends with Marty Morell. We had worked, uh, there's this whole scene in the Catskills here.
Mhm.
There was back then. There were lots of resort hotels and hundreds of musicians working. It was a great training ground. And Marty and I actually spent a year at this hotel called the Homowac.
Oh,
He was in a trio and I was in the show band, and we got to know each other. We hung out and I followed his career, so I knew when he went with Bill. And then later on I was living in San Francisco and I used to see them whenever they came out. I'd go see them at the Great American Music Hall. And eventually I guess I found out just through the grapevine, not through Marty, that Marty was leaving, and if I was interested in auditioning, to call Helen Keane and arrange an audition, which I did. And by that point, I had spent 2 years working with Vince Guaraldi on the West Coast. And so I had some credits to my name. I
Yeah.
also worked with Mike Knock and Ron McClure out there and Steve Swallow. That was a very productive time for me before I joined Bill. And so I had some people to mention, names to drop, and Helen arranged for me to, and the way Bill auditioned people at that point was just to let them play a set on an actual live gig. So I went to the Persian Room that night, did my gig, and then went down to the Vanguard, I guess, for the second set. And I'm a left-handed drummer, so I had to, switch the drums around.
yeah.
And I couldn't switch the whole set around, so I was playing a little bit at a disadvantage. And I was working opposite another drummer at the Persian Room, and he had this beautiful swish, like a sizzle cymbal, and I didn't have a sizzle cymbal. And I remembered Bill's early records with Paul and
Yeah.
the sound of a cymbal in the background. So I borrowed his sizzle cymbal and went down and auditioned. And I think just my feel, my touch, my knowledge of Bill's repertoire, and the fact that I knew Eddie and he made me pretty comfortable on the bandstand.
Yeah.
The set went really well. And I think the thing Bill responded to mostly was my touch and my feel, that I could play in a trio with strongly and supportively and not drown the band out. And I kind of had the feeling at the end from what he said that I got the gig. And that, like I said, that was the beginning of a big change in my life. I remember I couldn't sleep for 48 hours after I did the gig.
Shit, yeah.
I literally could not fall asleep. I was so excited. I mean, you can't even imagine because there's nothing analogous to that anymore. Working with a giant what?
Yeah, no, I can just imagine, what you're saying.
We had gigs, man. We used to go out on these 6-8 week tours 3-4 times a year, plus all the stuff at the Vanguard and, local stuff in Boston. It was amazing. It was just, and I realized the reason these guys from the bebop area sounded so great was they didn't make any fucking money, man, but they played 6-7 nights a week.
Yeah.
40 weeks a year, and
yeah.
I mean, when you play that much, the music just becomes conversational. You don't even have to think about it, and that's kind of what I experienced playing with Bill, because we were working so much. It became just like talking to your friend, and a wonderful feeling, it's and very rarely duplicated at this point. Most things I do now, it's one night here and 2 nights there, and you fly to Japan for 3 concerts, and it's crazy, man. It's like a new world,
Yeah. Did you guys ever talk about music, like about playing, or like because you and Eddie seemed, there was such a chemistry between you guys when I listened to the music. But did you guys ever talk about it, how to do it, or how to? Or
very
rarely. Oh, interesting.
No, very rarely. And in fact, when we did records, it was more often than not brand new music and rehearsing in the studios. We never had I mean, maybe once we had a rehearsal, but basically Bill would bring tunes to the studio and we'd play through them and record them. And I remember, we did that with You Must Believe in Spring, and that
Yeah.
became a real classic.
Yep.
We had never played any of that music before. It was amazing that album came out the way
Yeah,
it did.
it's one of the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, that was kind of where I was coming from, and like I said, I was so lucky to grow up in New York. I mean, I heard Elvin live, I heard Art Blakey live, I heard Philly Joe live, I heard Sonny Payne live. And, you could go to Birdland and pay $2 to get in, and
Yeah.
you could, I could sit right at the side of the stage, maybe 5 feet from the drummer, and I could see his feet and his hands. I could watch them snorting cocaine from the back.
Sure.
I mean, it was amazing, man. I mean, stuff that, you go hear Count Basie opposite Bill Evans, or, Coltrane opposite Mal Waldron or something. I mean, it was just, a double bill for $2. It was unbelievable, man. And also, there was Sunday matinees at the Vanguard. I heard Miles Davis extensively there. I loved Miles Davis's band. They were always the most exciting. I heard the band with Philly Joe. I heard it with Jimmy Cobb. I heard it with Tony Williams many times. And those were priceless, just priceless lessons and wonderful, wonderful things to see. These guys were like gods to me. I was so scared to talk to them, and now, now it's much more approachable because of all the jazz education, and guys are used to being around big stars. But back then it was like, I was literally scared to talk to these guys. They were like, really like, I don't know, just like gods to me.
How was it like for you when you became part of Bill's trio? I mean, then you actually shared the same stages with these people. How was that like for you? I mean,
how was what like? Yeah, specifically,
you basically played then on the same festivals as Miles's groups or whoever with Bill, right?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I remember one night we were playing at the Vanguard. You know the Vanguard? Have you ever been in the club?
Sure, many times, yeah.
Yeah, well, where the drummer is, there used to be this bench. I'm not sure it's still there, where cats could just sit. And one night, I'm playing with Bill, and I look over, and there's Tony Williams sitting at the table. And I'm like, holy shit, And, it was amazing, man. I mean, it is, it's a wonderful feeling to be part of that. It was a great feeling. I mean, those were the greatest years of my life, and also playing with Michelle was in a way even more exciting than playing with Bill, because it was the beginning of his career, and it brought me even more, more media notice than playing with Bill. I mean, in the long run, as the years pass, playing with Bill is a better credit. I mean, a lot of people, because Michelle ended up playing with all these stars later in his life, a lot of people don't even know that first trio with Polly, which I think was,
I love it,
some of the best shit that was he ever did.
The Vanguard, those Vanguard, it's just
and then the other record, Pianism, that we did.
Yeah. I mean, when you play, it's funny because you play Nardis also, and
you play Nardis,
and it's burning. And I think Olio you play on that one, right? By Sonny. I think you play Olio also on that one, right?
Yeah, on the Vanguard.
It's just killing. And you and Polly,
he played his heart out. I did a record with Polly a couple of years ago, actually, with Christina von Bülow. Have you heard that record?
No. Oh, shit. I have to check it out, really.
It's a beautiful record. It's called On the Cusp of a Beautiful Song, I think. Christina von Bülow. You know Christina?
No, just the name, not the music, yeah.
Yeah, it's on Storyville.
Okay.
She's a wonderful player. And it's a beautiful record. It's mostly trio with Polly, but her son's on a couple of tracks. He's a great guitarist as well, and she's a wonderful person. And I love Denmark. If I was
Yeah.
30 years younger, I'd probably move to Denmark. Yeah.